You were never truly aging. You were simply forgetting. Not forgetting your age, but forgetting yourself. Because the body doesn't grow old on its own. It follows the soul, and the soul begins to wither only when we stop listening to it. Most people spend their lives chasing youth in all the wrong places. Mirrors, creams, diets, surgeries. But what if the true secret of timelessness isn't found in how you look, but in how you remember? Because aging is not a disease, it's a silence. And silence comes not with time, but with surrender. Imagine this. An old man stands before a mirror, but staring back at him isn't just wrinkles and weathered skin. It's a child, still laughing, still curious, still fully alive. Not a memory, but a presence. A part of him that never left, just got buried under the weight of adulthood. That child never aged. We did. Carl Jung once said that the mirror is more than a reflection of the face. It's a reflection of the soul, of the self. And those who stop looking inward, who stop tending to that inner reflection, they begin to disappear. Not in body, but in spirit. So maybe the people who never seem to age aren't gifted. Maybe they're just in touch with the child within. They laugh without apology. They cry without shame. They still dance badly and chase ideas that don't make sense. They let joy find them in small things. The sound of rain, the warmth of tea, the wind through trees. They didn't stay young by avoiding pain. They stayed young by refusing to bury wonder. You see, your inner child never left you. He didn't grow up. He didn't die. He just got quiet the moment you started performing for the world. When you traded imagination for efficiency, magic for logic, freedom for fitting in, he went silent. Not gone. Just waiting. In Jungian psychology, the child archetype is not about immaturity. It's about wholeness. It is the part of you that remembers instinct, honesty, curiosity. It's the root of your vitality. But society doesn't reward wholeness. It rewards performance. And so we grow up, not into ourselves, but out of ourselves. The irony? That very performance, polite, polished, professional, ages us more than time ever could. It turns joy into duty, presence into productivity, and slowly the mirror begins to show a stranger. Not because your face changed, but because your soul no longer recognizes itself. People who look young don't just take care of their skin. They take care of their story. They journal. They reflect. They cry when they need to. They revisit memories not to stay in the past, but to rescue the parts of themselves left behind. They don't wear masks when they're tired. They don't pretend when they're heartbroken. They let life touch them. Because the greatest wrinkle in a person's face is not on the skin. It's the one between who they are and who they pretend to be. So ask yourself honestly, when did you stop playing? When did you stop wondering? When did you trade aliveness for approval? If you feel like you've aged too fast, maybe it's not your body. Maybe it's your soul, tired of being silenced. And here's the truth most won't tell you. You don't reverse aging by turning back time. You reverse it by turning back to yourself. It starts slowly. You don't even notice it at first. You just stop laughing as loudly. You stop crying as openly. You start editing your emotions before they make it to your face. Not because you don't feel, but because the world taught you to hide. That's how aging really begins. Not in the body, but in the suppression of spirit. Not in wrinkles, but in the distance between your truth and your performance. You lose access to your emotions, and with them, the color of your life fades. Like a photograph left too long in the sun. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who was technically young but felt ancient? Their body still smooth, but their eyes already tired? It wasn't age, it was emotional exile, a quiet war against authenticity. In Jungian psychology, this war is internalized as the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. It's necessary, we all wear it. But over time, if we become the mask, we begin to decay behind it. Children don't have this problem. They don't hide joy or fear or wonder. They cry when they're hurt, laugh when they're delighted. They're emotionally alive, and it shows in their skin, their posture, their radiance. But as adults, we're taught, control yourself. Don't be too much, be professional. And every time we obey that message, a small part of our youth goes silent. This is why some people, even with smooth skin and no gray hairs, still look heavy, not in weight, but in presence. They carry the burden of decades of unspoken pain, unexpressed grief, unshared joy. Their soul has become a container of what couldn't be said, what couldn't be shown, what couldn't be wanted. And the body, faithful servant that it is, records it all, in tight shoulders, in shallow breaths, in tired eyes that no longer shine. This is what spiritual aging looks like, a dimming of the light within. We often talk about health in terms of vitamins, diets, sleep, But how often do we talk about the emotional toxins we store? The disappointments we never processed, the anger we swallowed, the dreams we told ourselves were silly or unrealistic. Every unresolved emotion ages us. Every truth we bury weighs on the body. And while no cream can erase that, honesty can begin to lift it. That's the paradox. People who look young aren't free of pain. They've just learned to feel it, speak it, move through it. They cry when they need to, scream when they must, and rest when their soul says, enough. They don't hold on to bitterness like armor. They don't suppress love to avoid vulnerability. They don't fear softness, they trust it. And their face tells that story. Not flawless, but fluid. Not wrinkle-free, but expressive. Not young in years, but in essence. There's a kind of radiance that only honesty brings. Not the glow of skincare, but of self-care. The kind that says, I've hurt, and I've healed, and I'm still open. You know it when you see it. The friend whose eyes light up when they talk about what they love. The stranger whose presence feels safe without them saying a word. The elder who makes you feel seen, not judged. These are the ageless ones. Not because time forgot them, but because they remembered themselves. So ask yourself, where have you been silencing joy just to look composed? Where have you been shrinking your light to fit someone else's comfort? Because every time you do, you don't just lose moments. You lose life force, you lose youth. And the healing isn't in doing more, it's in feeling more. Let it out. Not to get attention, not to perform healing, but to clear the space for your soul to breathe again. Don't fear the cracks. They're not flaws, they're exits for trapped light. And when you start letting yourself be seen, not as the world expects, but as your spirit truly is, you begin to look younger. Not just to others, but to yourself. Let's go deeper. You've probably seen someone walk into a room and command it. Not with power, but with presence. They're not the youngest, not the most conventionally attractive. But there's something magnetic about them. They glow. And it's not makeup, fashion, or filters. It's clarity. It's congruence. It's a life lived in alignment. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that privilege has a visual effect. When you reclaim the parts of yourself you once disowned, the dreams, the wildness, the tenderness, you don't just feel different. You look different. You walk differently. You speak from a deeper place. Because youthfulness is not the absence of years. It's the absence of internal conflict. The people who never seem to age aren't necessarily more fortunate. They're often just more integrated. They've faced their pain instead of burying it. They've made peace with their past instead of pretending it didn't matter. They don't fake optimism. They earn it through emotional truth. Here's the paradox. Trying to appear young usually makes you look older. Why? Because it creates tension. You're constantly managing a performance, controlling your smile, sucking in your belly, avoiding direct light, avoiding real emotions. And that tension shows. It hardens the face. It narrows the eyes. It steals the freedom from your movement. It erodes your natural expression, one forced pose at a time. Meanwhile, the people who allow themselves to live fully, messily, truthfully, relax into themselves. And in that relaxation they unlock something rare. Agelessness, not perfection, not forever 21. But the kind of radiance that comes from radical self-acceptance. They are not obsessed with youth. They're obsessed with aliveness. And aliveness doesn't have a number. Here's what people often misunderstand. Aging isn't just a biological process, it's a spiritual one. Every decade invites you to shed a false identity, to leave behind the people-pleasing, the self-denial, the masks, to speak more honestly, to stop chasing what doesn't nourish you, to remember what truly matters. And when you refuse that invitation, when you cling to outdated versions of yourself, you don't just age in body, you age in energy. You become heavier, more brittle, more guarded. But when you say, "This is who I am now, and I no longer apologize for it," you give birth to a new vitality. One rooted not in trying to stay young, but in daring to grow fully. Jung referred to this process as individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating all parts of the self, even the ones you were taught to hide. The funny thing is, the people who walk this path rarely talk about anti-aging. They're not trying to escape time. They're trying to be fully present in it. And time, in return, becomes kinder to them. Their faces carry stories, not shame. Their voices have texture, not tension. Their eyes reflect soul, not fear. We often think youth is about glow, but glow is just a side effect of integrity, of a nervous system that's not constantly under pressure, of emotions that are not strangled but expressed. Let's make this practical. If you want to reclaim that glow, don't look in the mirror. Look in the mirror of your life. Where are you out of alignment? What dreams did you abandon to be more reasonable? What parts of yourself did you hide just to be liked? Because every time you betray your truth, you trade a little bit of radiance for approval, and every time you reclaim your truth, that light comes back. You don't need another serum. You need a sacred rebellion. A rebellion against the parts of culture that say, shrink yourself, be quiet, don't cry, don't dream too big, be young, but not too wild. And when you say no to that conditioning, when you take your life back, your face, your posture, your energy, they all shift. You become more alive, and aliveness is always beautiful, not because it's flawless, but because it's honest. Let's flip the script. What if your face isn't just skin? What if it's a map? A story of everything you felt but never said. Every yes you whispered when you meant no. Every tear you swallowed. Every rage you silenced. Every time you walked away from your own truth to keep the peace. The lines around your eyes? Maybe they're not just from squinting. Maybe they're from watching your dreams shrink to fit a life that was too small. That tightness in your jaw? Not just tension, but years of biting your tongue, of not being allowed to be too loud, too opinionated, too much. You see, your body keeps the score, and your face, it publishes the memoir. This isn't vanity, it's emotional reality. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that the outer world mirrors the inner world, and nowhere is that more literal than in the way we age. We are told to fight wrinkles with creams and procedures, but very few talk about the emotional wrinkles, the ones formed from decades of self-abandonment. You cannot Botox away a life unlived. You cannot laser off resentment. You cannot contour your way into peace. But here's the good news. Just as emotional wounds etch themselves onto the body, emotional healing softens it. You've seen it before. A woman leaves a toxic marriage and suddenly looks 10 years younger. A man quits a soul-sucking job and walks taller, lighter. A person finally speaks their truth, and their whole face changes. That's not magic. That's nervous system regulation. That's the body finally exhaling. In trauma research, it's called somatic release. When your emotional patterns shift, your physical body follows. Because the way we hold our pain becomes the way we hold our posture, the way we speak, even the way we age. You want to look younger? Try telling the truth. Try forgiving someone. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Try sleeping without your phone. Try resting without guilt. Try making peace with the version of yourself you've been trying to fix for decades. True beauty doesn't come from effort. It comes from relief. It's the relief of no longer performing, of no longer running, of finally choosing yourself. Jung called this the integration of the shadow, the parts of yourself you've hidden because they felt unlovable. But when you bring those parts home, you don't just get emotional clarity, you get vitality. And vitality is timeless. Think about someone in your life who seems ageless. I guarantee you, it's not just genetics, it's energy, it's presence, it's the absence of inner war. Because every time you choose peace over perfection, honesty over performance, compassion over control, you soften, and that softness doesn't age you, it liberates you. Here's a question to ask yourself tonight. If my face told the truth about how I live, what would it say? Would it say you're tired of pretending? That you miss yourself? That you've been editing your joy to be more palatable? Or would it say, I am finally free? Because freedom looks good on everyone. It's the best skincare there is. Let's talk practicality now. This is not about abandoning appearance or rejecting beauty routines. It's about integrating them. So instead of asking, what serum should I use? Also ask, what thought do I need to release? What boundary do I need to enforce? What truth do I need to speak? Skincare without soul care is just surface work, and the soul always finds a way to be seen. You don't glow because your pores are perfect. You glow because your conscience is clear, because you're not carrying secrets, resentments, or shame in your muscles anymore. You're not trying to look younger. You're embodying your aliveness. And when people see you, they won't say, you look so young. They'll say, there's something about you, and that something is you, unburdened.